So I can't hear anyone else because you're all muted.
There we go.
A good start.
I guess there we go.
Yeah.
What, we're supposed to talk now?
Well, I just said good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and whatever, wherever
So
you are.
you just played that song live on your Genos, yeah? Genos. Yes, I did see yours.
And we're off with the Genos jokes.
Yeah.
Well, today it's about the Yamaha keyboards, the Montage and the MODX in the newer versions, plus, minus, or whatever they're called, and M and X and MX and whatever. I hope you can explain all that, but first, let's introduce each of you. Howard.
I'm the oldest one in the group, I think. I'm pushing 70. I've been. And can I go straight to FM? I started, of course, with EMS synths in the early to mid 70s, and my first FM synth was actually a piano, PF10, I think they called it, and only moved on to the DX7 a year or two later. After that. I saw Dave Bristow demonstrating it in Frankfurt Trade Fair and blown away. Interested in the new stuff, but I don't think I've got any room in my studio at the moment for anything that size, not even the smaller ones. Next, please.
Scott, how's your week been, and who are you? We know.
Sure. I'm Scott. I have a YouTube channel called Scott Synth Stuff, which apparently more and more people are seeing because it's a bit unsettling when people recognize me. I sold a Roland Gaia just the other day, and to a local guy who saw it on Facebook, and I opened the door when he showed up. He's like, "You're the YouTube guy," and that's happened a couple of times now, and it's really unsettling that people know who I am that I've never met. I've been doing this for a while. I think my third or fourth synth was a DX7. Actually, technically my first synth was actually a Yamaha because it was an RX-11 drum machine, I think. Anyway, so I never did get into FM programming on the DX7. I think part of that was the user interface. But I've had the MX, I've had MODX, I've not had a MODX Plus, had a Montage, which is back in the back there, and the Montage M, which is right there. So I have some history with Yamaha synths.
And we have a guest that wasn't introduced in the trailer. Robbie, welcome.
There was a very good reason for that, because I wasn't sure whether I could make it because it's my son's 18th birthday today. Yeah. The youngest one is out of the gate, and but they're still living here, which is...
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, I think most of you probably... that sounds rather conceited. My name is Rob.
You know who you are.
Yeah. I do the ProSynth Network show. I do podcasts for Sound on Sound. I write for GearNews.com, and my love, my passion, affiliation, if you will, with FM synthesis has been long and expensive, as you can see. Many FM synths here, and big Yamaha fan. I never realised when I looked at how many instruments I got in here that we made by Yamaha, I thought, there's something happening here that I wasn't aware of, and maybe I need help. But there you go. And, of course, I presented a seminar just this year with one of our other colleagues here that seems to have been received incredibly well, and it's deeply humbling and very honouring. And there's more to come. There you go.
Let's go directly to him. Manny?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I am the second most senior on the senior panel today. My first FM synth was a DX7. Go figure. and kind of became my thing. I've been working with Yamaha since 1987, and I like to do for them all the stuff that nobody else will take the time to hit their head against the wall to do. And I am quite a fan of the Montage series. I'm a fan of many of Yamaha's FM synths and physical modeling synths, and glad to be here with you guys.
Okay, and Andy, you are everywhere.
Ah, yes. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm a professional lurker, so all the podcasts and other shit. I also do some science channels of my own on YouTube, as well as a music channel. Yeah, I've been a FM fan forever. I know a lot of people for years have been saying how cold and digital it is and stuff, and it's like, I like digital synths. I like Waldorf, I like Yamaha, I like lots of stuff that's digital. And with the newer stuff, they've gone, even richer with mixing the samples and all kinds of stuff. So technically, I don't have a Montage. I can't afford one right now. And I don't have a MODX because I was really mad that they didn't have aftertouch on the key bed. I was waiting for a module, which never came. So I've used them a bunch in stores and talked to a bunch of people who own them. So I know a decent amount about them, but wish I could know more by owning one. But one of these days I'll just get one used, just to have one. But I'm just a huge fan of all this stuff, and so happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. Welcome all of you, and let's see who's in the chat. There's a lot. IIX Orb, Scott is there, and Andy is there, Culture of Ghost, and Manny is there, Dr. Synth, and again Culture of Ghost. I have to scroll here. Keith and Watford, and Inky, and Robbie is here, as we didn't know.
The usual suspects, isn't it, really?
How do I open the chat?
Yeah. And we have, let's see, you're speaking a lot, Robbie. Matt Brown, Inky again, and it's hard to scroll this chat. Let's see, Tracker Jack. And Paul Holmes, and we are about Will Joseph. Will, I would like to talk to you later, so if you can write me somewhere on Facebook or anywhere.
Stay behind after class.
Yeah. And who else is here? Paula Toller, if I haven't mentioned him. That's about it. So welcome everybody, and let's start the show. So who would like to explain the difference between the many models of the MODX and montage there are?
I guess I will take that on if I may. So the various versions of them are just different combinations of feature sets. So the basic Montage layout is a combination of AWM2 and FMX. And the difference between the MODX series and the Montage series has to do with polyphony and hardware for the user interface. As Andy Synthetic mentioned, the MODX series does not have aftertouch. But the front panel is also a reduced knob and slider arrangement. Still has a touchscreen like the Montage does, and it does support all the same voicing features. The original MODX had only half the polyphony of FMX compared to the original Montage. With the release of the MODX Plus, what they've essentially done is made the internal hardware of the MODX series identical to the original Montage, so they are completely compatible in terms of voice architecture and everything. And then, of course, the new Montage M that has just been recently released. The most obvious thing that is the ANX virtual analog engine that's been added to the Montage series, and they've redesigned the interface, added additional screens, and they did a lot of re-engineering of the audio outputs and the whole signal chain. And that's basically the differences between the series. They come in 88, 76, and 61 note versions across the line.
And don't discount that audio chain re-engineering.
It's massive.
It's an incredible change.
Yeah.
The moment I plugged it in, I started playing some of the old patches that I was familiar with my old montage. I was like, wow, it's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. The MODX to MODX Plus did bring up the FMX polyphony, but it also allowed the use of up to 4 gigabytes of sample space for AWM, which the original MODX didn't have. However, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the MODX Plus has the seamless sound switching capability of the montage.
You are correct.
Yeah.
The MODX Plus does, though, doesn't it, I think?
No, it does not.
Because
I
had seamless switching. When I had that 7 Plus here, that had seamless switching.
Well, it does. It just doesn't have, if you have a certain number of parts in your performance,
it won't do
it limits which ones. That was the limitation, whereas the montage, you could fill it up and still have seamless sound switching, whereas the MODX, you could only have, I think it was 4, if I remember correctly.
And also with regards to that audio signal path on the montage and the montage M, it's incredibly good, and obviously the M is even better. With the MODX, the analog outputs were quite weak, but you
also
could get the
unbalanced
quality from the USB. Yeah, exactly. But if you use the USB audio on the MODX 7 or the MODX Plus, that apparently was identical to the montage, and so it was a much better experience.
Yes.
Does it have a physical modeling engine in it as well?
No.
No.
Does not.
Depends how you know how to program FM.
No, I've got a couple of VL7s that I still enjoy.
Yes.
And my only FM synth at the moment is Reface, I think. Yeah.
That's an impressive little synth. The whole Reface line is.
Yeah, my favorite Reface is the CP, though. It's really brilliant for live.
Really, mine's the CS.
Yes, yeah.
But yes, to Howard's point, there is no modeling engine in the montage series at all. Many people miss it. Many people have requested it, and so far those requests have gone unheard.
I suspect that modeling would take more processing power than the SWP chips in the montage and the MODX have the ability to do.
I would not
I
disagree.
get that. Yeah.
But to the bigger point is, regardless, it is a wonderful sounding instrument across all the lines. It's a very capable synthesizer, which a lot of people tend to, I think, overlook in some modern keyboards because everything has been so sample dominant for a while. And FMX is there with wonderful patch compatibility with the original DX7 patches, but it is an entire engine unto its own.
May I ask what the X is in FMX?
It's basically the extension for real-time control. So the biggest thing that's in the montage series is not everything, but virtually everything can be controlled in real time, whether it's the insert effects, whether it's the global effects, whether it's synthesis parameters within each of the parts across the sample and FM engine. There's a 16-slot mod matrix per part, and then I think also 16 parts per performance. And you can do massive real-time control of all the engines, and that's the extension that they came up to basically make it a performance synthesizer. If you guys remember the original advertisement for the montage when it came out, they got a lot of flack of it. They were talking about the essence of the art of playing and the curved back and the things with the foo. But the point is they wanted to capture dynamicism in playing again, and so that's why it's got so many real-time controls.
I love that curved back. I was happy. I was really afraid they were going to get rid of it on the M.
On the new one.
Yeah. Will it understand poly aftertouch or MPE or anything?
So obviously the new ones have the poly aftertouch response, and the 88 key generates it directly.
Oh,
They aren't directly MPE compatible. However, there is a reasonable backdoor to that, because those of you who have a Montage knows it has a very unique real-time front panel MIDI implementation relative to the parts, in that it has a mode that every part in your performance is accessible over a separate MIDI channel. So therefore, you can fly a single part into all 15, 16 slots of your performance and send it data from an MPE controller, and then it'll sign everything sequentially across those parts, and then you have a MPE montage.
I've taken. I mean, I have the M7, which is not polyphonic aftertouch; it's channel aftertouch, and I have to say that the I don't know if my old Montage, I just didn't like the aftertouch as much, but the aftertouch on the M seems more sensitive to me. Even though it's supposed to be the same key bed, it feels better to me.
I'm glad you said that, Scott. One of my headbanging sessions throughout the project was giving them multiple suggestions of how to re-implement their aftertouch curves and selections and such. So we really worked on the playability of that, because the original Montage is okay, but not great. I'm a huge fan of the standard that ASM set with the Hydrosynth.
Yes, and that's what I was going to mention, is that I have MIDI'd the ASM Hydrosynth with no changes in setting, just raw MIDI, sending it from the Hydrosynth into the M7, and it plays polyphonic aftertouch performances on the M7 perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a Hydrosynth Deluxe as well, and I keep harping on about this, but the aftertouch should have a separate release time, so that you don't. And even the Hydrosynth is too short. It's like half a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sitting here as a sound designer thinking, how could I do that in the Hydrosynth?
Well, it has it. It's just like Howard says. In some instances, you wish it would be longer.
Right.
Don't want to get off topic, but I think aftertouch should be able to trigger its own envelope in addition to giving its own real-time control. But nobody seems to want to implement that kind of thing. But the point is, it's very, very, very playable. And the 88-note version, they spent a lot of time re-engineering that. I mean, basically engineering that key bed. That's a brand new key bed, top to bottom, to put all the electronics for the poly aftertouch. And I hoped Kent was going to be on, because he has a CS80 that he can kind of compare the touch and feel and connection to it. But the Montage 8 is really a very nice key bed.
Is it long throw keys?
It is fortunately not long throw keys, but they've found a very nice compromise.
I mean, are the keys themselves very long?
I think they are.
They're definitely longer than you would see on a MODX.
Yes, but I couldn't tell you because I didn't measure it when I had it open. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's not like the
hard to beat the
CS80.
CS80 for that.
No. It's not like those 12, 18-inch keys that you have in those guys. Yeah, not like that.
It's interesting that the X, you say, was part of the performance aspect of it, because I was always under the impression that it was because it was an extension of the DX7 standard, in that you're not restricted to just sine waves. You can use skirts and things to modify the original oscillators. Not oscillator, not the carrier.
Operator.
The operator.
The
original
waveform and stuff. Right. All could be correct.
Yeah.
Remember,
I know what you said just when you were talking about that, how the Montage itself is an excellent synthesizer, and a lot of people just they say Montage or MODX, oh, it's a Rompler, plays piano, plays strings, plays guitar, and I know I have done a lot of videos strictly on trying to dissuade that. I've done, okay, well, here I'm going to use a sample of a sawtooth, and we're going to make it sound like a Poly6, and using the filters, and show how to do that. And then I did another one where you do something similar, but just using FM and changing you adjust the skirt to get a sawtooth emulation wave, and and now we have a true synthesizer with ways that we can change. So it is really a powerful synthesizer. I think the problem is the same thing with the DX7, is that people look at a DX7, they're like, I have no idea what to do. Where's the filter knob? And they don't get into the actual sound design and programming because it's layers down. But
Right.
that said, that is all changed with the Montage M.
So to wrap that up, but that's the whole also advantage of having the 8 assignable controllers on the front panel. They have certain default settings for all your basic things, and of course they have all the assignable settings. So, one of the things that was particular in the preset voicing that I've done across the line is making sure that there are very useful and immediate controls on those sliders. So you don't have to know how to program FM. You just got a couple of knobs with some names that kind of make sense to what you're doing, and you can get in there and, tweak it all out. And that's not even getting into Smart Morph, which, I think after all this time is a horribly underutilized and under touted feature of the Montage line.
And now very, very fast.
Very, very, very fast. And 6 points. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Smart Morph. Who knows what Smart Morph is? Everyone?
I can imagine, yeah.
Cool. So Smart Morph, you pick parent patches. You hit a button, uses machine learning to interpolate real-time changes across a grid space that you can then navigate in real time with your finger on the touchscreen or assign paths through it as you are controlling it with the super knob.
And it has no problem with switching? Does it do it by crossfading 2 engines or something?
No, so here's the thing. It is the resultant is within a single FMX part. So the continuous values all morph continuously, but all the stochastic values step at various places. So it does not do crossfading. Now that is actually sometimes really cool and sometimes really annoying. I don't want to take over this whole conversation, but by intelligently picking your parents, you can find paths through the field that will mitigate all of that. But it has to do with being very specific how you set those up. And
I was going to do it really quickly here, and I forgot on this. I forget how to actually add new Smart Morphs.
Remember, you have to populate the 9 through 16 slots because that's where your parents go. And then you just go to the Smart Morph page and hit the button. But on one hand, it's a very, very useful way to find new patches. So one way to use it, you randomly pick 4 or more patches, you hit the button, you drag your finger around, you find something cool, and you save that. And now that's a patch to go off into another dimension. So you can think of it as a intelligent patch generator.
Can it kind of do mutations?
Well, every time you do it and re-hit the button, it re-scrambles the genes, as it were. So yes,
that's a lot better than randomization. I hate randomization.
Completely. Right. So in the ultimate inverse of randomization, how I use it, is I will program my own specific parents that all have, for lack of a better word, target endpoints. Okay. And then I use the Smart Morph to generate the real-time changes to achieve those, because that's infinitely better than me building a patch and having to manually put all that stuff
and everything. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so it's very, very useful in that.
And each time you hit it, it's a little bit different. There is a random function to it.
Yeah.
You can see. So, and then you can drag those around.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you could get a few sounds that you like, generate a Smart Morph, and if you don't like it, hit it again, hit it again, until you get something you do like. But if you notice how quickly that occurs, it takes about a second, whereas on the previous Montage and the MODX, it would take, I think it was like about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was 8 to 10. Yeah, it was 8 to 10. But it's really cool, because one of the things that I think really unsuspectingly surprised everybody at SynthFest when Robbie and I did our talk is I demonstrated 2 Smart Morph patches out of the presets that I think people had no idea that the MODX could do that kind of thing. And I'd like to think that was part of the reason why they all ran down to the Yamaha booth afterwards. But it's like I say, it's a very, very useful tool, and you can use it blindly, you can use it directed, and the new version with the 6 points through the space, there's some very sophisticated things that you can do. I'll close with this point. In addition to the morphs that it creates, if you go back to try to edit your patch, you'll find that you cannot edit any of the Core FM parameters because they're all being controlled in real time by the Smart Morph engine. However, every one of your controllers is still active. So now you can put various parameters that you would like to change on the 8 assignable controllers to have further real-time control of the morph.
And I assume you can take a snapshot of intermediates if you can.
Yep.
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 Okay.
Anytime you're in any place you like, you can just restore the patch at that point, and then that's in a slot that you can go from moving forward. So
Is that recorded as a scene as well?
you can do it as a scene as well.
Nice.
So, ton of stuff there. And very few people get there because it's got a really great set of samples, really good effects, and a lot of layers. Oh, that's the other thing that changed in the M. The number of, I forgot the terminology. Scott, you might know it. It used to be, 16 multi-samples that you could have in a single.
Oh, yeah. Elements.
Yeah, the elements within the part, they upped that to 128 now or something like that. Ridiculous.
I think it was 99. It was a weird number.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you have elements that make up parts that make up a performance, up to 16 parts for performance, and it was 8 elements. And if you went over 8, you'd have to bump the next ones to another part inside the performance. So if you had a piano patch, for instance, and you wanted to have a lot of different aspects of that piano patch, especially different samples across different parts of the key bed, different samples for different velocities, and then, of course, you want a percussion part of the sound and so on, you end up with a whole lot of different things that may or may not be triggered, which end up taking up a whole lot of different parts. But now, because you can put them all in a single part, because you have the ability to put all those elements in there, it makes it very easy to combine that now with other sounds. The caveat being that it's still going to use up polyphony, regardless of whether it's across different performances or different parts or all in one.
Yeah, but polyphony's not really an issue on the new one, is it?
It could be. I mean,
It's possible.
You can do it.
Yeah.
If you start really layering things up and then you start playing, lots of many finger chords, you can get there. And particularly if you have a lot of sustain. So in that case, reverb is your, put a reverb on there, and short sustain is your friend.
Yep. So, there you have it. Are we done? No.
Yeah, the Smart Morph is probably my
for-
favorite feature of that stuff. I've been a big fan of patch genetics for years, from Sound Tower and other products like P-Farm and some other cool genetic algorithms for patch creation. It's cool stuff.
One other thing across the line, again, is if people aren't familiar with the architecture, Scott had mentioned it. You have a performance. A performance is made up of 16 parts. 8 of those parts are playable in real time from the keyboard. The other ones can be played from the onboard sequencer or via MIDI. Each part has 2 dedicated insert effects, okay? And then you also have a set of effects for the performance as a whole, and all of those effects have multiple parameters that are real-time controllable as well. And when you get into programming, if you are intimidated by FM, you'd be surprised how much mucking about and new sound programming you can do if you just want to go in and create real-time changes in the various effects that are available, in addition to thinking I have to reprogram this FM sound. And the fact that you have all that polyphony with, individual inserts across all those parts, there's a lot of really fancy stuff you can do with that.
So there's another change with Montage M, which is it was welcome. They didn't do it quite as well as exactly how I wish they would have done it, but they did, and I could see the reason why they did that, and that is how the individual channels are locked to individual MIDI channels, so individual parts. So
right.
MIDI channel 1 always plays part 1, and so on. Now, you can now set it up so that if you have, you can set it up so that MIDI data comes in, acts as if it's a key bed, so that if you have MIDI data coming in on the channel, it will get delivered to all of the parts that have keyboard control on. So if you have 3 parts in a performance and MIDI part 1, 2, and 3, and the keyboard controls on for all those parts, data received on any of those channels 1 through 3 will be played on all 3. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is if you have a controller, it's out of frame here. I got one sitting up here where all it sends out is on channel 1, and it's only playing part of your performance. Well, now it will play all the parts of that performance, that's huge, especially if you're playing live.
Yeah, no, that's actually funny you should say that, because one of the things in the original, montage when we were doing voicing, had to do auditions. We'd be making our core pieces, we'd be putting them into a DAW, and then before we actually blew the data back for spec for submission, we have to duplicate that data on every channel for the number of parts that we were, engaging in our audition. So it was silly, but there you go.
It basically makes an external key bed act the same as the built-in key bed, because the built-in key bed also, if you have a 4-part performance and you play the key bed and you're recording that in your DAW, you're getting 4 channels of MIDI being sent and recorded by your DAW, which trips me up all the time. I always forget to set to a single part performance before
you send it out.
Yeah.
Howard, I think you had a question.
I hooked my Osmos up to get Bevan's new MIDI monitor. Did you read about that?
No. No.
I set the Osmos to multi-channel MIDI, I think it was, and of course you push the mod wheel, and you get it sent on all channels. So that's what happens to multi-channel MIDI, and only with MPE to get rid of that problem. I think they've solved it.
And who knows what they've done with it in MIDI 2.0.
Well, you've got they used to call it master and slave channels, but I think they used the words to be more PC. Member channels, they're called now, the slave channels. And all the global stuff gets sent on channel 1, and channels 2 to 16 are then free for multi-channel MIDI.
Right.
Mm.
There he is.
There he is.
Hey.
Greetings.
Birthday boy.
Well, tomorrow.
Wow.
Hey, Scott.
How are you?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I was watching videos of you. I have spent time driving around single-track lanes in the north of England, and watching you drive that massive Mach 1 Mustang on those roads, I was having nervous breakdown.
Yeah. So you wouldn't believe it, but it's actually easier to drive that around than it is a UK-sided car, Because all you have to do is make the car closer to the parked cars, and it's much easier to see where you are.
Right.
Yeah. Should teach Fiona to drive like that as well, to be honest. Thinking about it. But, yes, I got a question. Seeing as we've got Manny in the room. Manny.
Yes.
When you are using the montage and you're using the sustain pedal, is there a way that you can get it to not send the sustain to the computer stroke other instrument at the same time? So only have the sustain working on the keyboard you're using?
I do not believe that is possible. But let me
Just
take a
filter
quick
it out
check.
in the door.
Yeah, filter it on the DAW.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
It
Or
might
buy
be
MIDI Solutions event processor and take it out that way.
sounds like just buy a bigger hammer. Yeah.
If it's disabled for an individual part, does it still send it as MIDI on that MIDI channel? I wonder.
I don't really know.
I am looking now, and I do not believe so.
Okay. All right, I'll have to try and filter it out the other end then. That might be the trick. See, I'm sort of like just getting used to all this gear I've got. Starting to learn how to use it. Oh man, talk about learning. Oh, the learning curve is like curling back on itself today. So
There was a question someone had regarding the key bed compared to CS80.
Similar, but not the same. I think mainly because the action's different, I suppose, more than anything else. The muscle memory is quite similar, but it's still somehow different. But I couldn't say exactly, pinpoint exactly what it is.
I think it's the same with the DX1 because obviously DX1 and CS80 are very similar actions. And I found when playing the M8X, and I said this to Kent, I came out of Yamaha and was straight on the phone, and I said, this poly aftertouch is amazing. It's so responsive. It's almost psychic. It almost feels like it knows what you're about to do and allows that to happen. So to kind of explain that, if you're happily, playing a piano sound where you want a very authentic piano sound where there is no aftertouch required, you can play that in the style and the manner that you would normally play that. But the minute you want to apply some poly aftertouch, and you do, it's almost like it. I know a lot of people complain about aftertouch when they're idiots, but I'm sorry, because it's all about expression for me, and I love expression. So a lot of people say, "Oh, bloody aftertouch!" I always turn it off because I'm always opening a filter or bending a note or whatever, because I'm hitting the keys a bit too hard.
That's the fault of the sound designers.
Yeah, well, the solution is to learn how to play your instrument. That's how you get around that. But it's almost like the M8X knows. It's a feeling. It's really kind of difficult to describe. But I was on the phone to Kent saying this thing like knew when I really wanted to put some, and it just allowed it, and it was just, and it didn't do it indiscriminately, and it was just lovely, and it really did remind me of this in terms of its feel. But of course, the action is different. And this electromagnetic system that they've got, it's witchcraft. I don't know how it works, but it works. It works really, really well.
Well, I must admit, I was told, I can't say who, but I was told before this came out that the aftertouch was going to be available on the 88 note hammer. I'm going to put my hands up to this, and I'm just going to go, are you insane? On a hammer action, what the hell are you talking about? You can't have pull up an aftertouch on a piano action keyboard. Yeah, that was my first impression of going, because you'll be hitting it and it'll be triggering and it's not. It's really brilliant the way it works. It just works.
Is it still have a felt stop? Because I know on the Hydra Synth they have there's actually two stops. There's one that is the regular contact switch with the two switches for velocity, but then it actually has two pieces that come in. The top one is the velocity sensor, and the bottom one is the aftertouch, and it has a second pressure sensitive. And so you hit the top, and then you push down, and it actually bends the key and pushes into the aftertouch. And each key is then individually calibrated, but as a result, there's no felt. So when you hit it, I mean, it's a pretty decent feel, but it's not the felt feel you get from most synth or even piano key beds, because you're used to hitting felt. And I wondered if
Yeah.
they're doing that with the M8X as well.
Quite possibly. I mean, there's none on the 80, for instance. I mean, they actually use the sensors as a cushioning for the key, and it's only and you can hit them quite hard without triggering them, and then you have to apply that pressure. To be honest with you, between the 80, the Montage, the Hydra Deluxe, I find that the aftertouch system and the way you play it with muscle memory is very, very similar to each other. There's not it's just nuances between them. Once you get to the Osmos, it's a completely different kettle of fish. With the Osmos, when you want to apply the aftertouch, I don't know.
I love it.
Sexually assaulting a kitten. You have to you really have to push it. Do you know what I mean? You really know. You can really feel that the level of aftertouch you're approaching. But no, I'm just glad to see aftertouch is finally in fashion. I've been bitching about it for 30 years.
I find when I play the Hydra synth that I will use the polyphonic aftertouch without intending to use it, and it just happens automatically. And then I miss it when I play on something that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I'm wiggling the keys of all my other keyboards.
You're stroking.
I want to follow up on how it magically kind of like knows what you want to do. This is sort of what I talked about in setting it up. The offset delay slope at the beginning of that aftertouch curve. Getting that right is what makes it feel magic, because that's the zone where it ignores non-intentional data. Okay.
Yeah.
And, that there was a lot of work that was done on that, because I think there's, 5 or 6 now preset curves on the M, where before I think we had 3 on the regular Montage. And not that there's just more of them, but the actual way that the data is mapped is completely different.
It's a complex curve. It's not the simple.
I had tried to convince them to make it fully programmable like the Hydra synth is, but they did a good compromise on some very good presets that the team came together to test. Talking about the Osmos, one of the things that makes the Osmos so different compared to these other keyboards with, let's call it traditional poly aftertouch, the Osmos, it's not just that it's got the larger range of motion. It literally is a real-time positional controller. It's not really pressure. It's just using pressure to engage. Yeah, it's to engage a whole different dimension of a controller. It's almost like having a little mod wheel with resistance under every key. So it's a little bit of a different vibe on that. But it is kind of funny how you want to wiggle the keys on all your keyboard once you have one.
Technically, the new Montage, the 8X, is the same way, because it doesn't have a sensor that you're pushing against.
Well, it's magnetic.
Yeah,
so it's
it's
not physical.
It's sensing the position of the key as you push it, or how quickly it's going by, but it's not impacting a sensor.
I remember that first on the VAX 77. Do you remember that thing? The foldable, large, heavy keyboard. Yeah.
Cool.
That
Well,
position.
I think we're going to be starting to see polyphonic aftertouch on a lot more. Well, I know I have. I think, has Korg just come out with one?
Yeah, Korg is using the ASM.
They're using an ASM or the Medeli key bed. Medeli is actually everywhere. Like the Summit, that's a Medeli key bed. So they're actually a lot more prevalent than people realize. But now that they have that poly aftertouch key bed, they're now licensing, and I think we're going to see it on a lot more synths.
And I think if
It's a fat dark killer.
if Yamaha made a misstep with the Montage M, it's not putting poly aftertouch on the 6 and the 7, because it can be done. We know it can be done because, as you said, Medali have got the what's it called? Polytouch is their brand, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So whether Yamaha didn't want to go, because Yamaha are very
self-contained.
Indeed, that's the polite way of saying it. So maybe
Well,
they just
you
didn't want to
can't
go to
have a
that.
flagship in a series if the smaller ones have got all the same stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. But for Tar do those sort of things. So I was just baffled as to why, having played the M8X, there are going to be a bunch of people that will want a smaller keyboard, but will want that that level of expression. And yeah, I know I've read some people say I don't care for poly aftertouch, so I don't care that it's not the 6 or the 7, or I've got an ASM, or I'm going to buy the Korg key stage and use that instead. Fine. I just think it was an odd decision not to do it, and maybe that's when we look at Montage
M7X,
Mark II,
M6X.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. They'll maybe they'll put
I'm
it in.
sure.
They just but it
Mind you,
doesn't detract from
as Poly AT is getting more prevalent with other keyboards. Even if you own a Montage 7, there'll be another controller nearby that you could plug into it and,
That's exactly
and
what I
play
do.
via that.
I mean, you can use a micro freak, couldn't you, with the Poly AT? And
True,
that and
yeah.
play, so
I mean, you could use a Hydra. I mean, who hasn't got a Hydra Deluxe now?
I have a regular one.
yeah, got the regular.
Well,
one.
it'll work.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Because you watch videos on YouTube and there's people going, "Oh yeah, well, I'm talking about something or other," and in the background there's a Hydra. In nearly every video, you go, "Oh, he's got a Hydra as well. Look, just behind his shoulder there." You got a Hydra now, Robbie. Shut up.
I know it's just but it's not a deluxe, is it? I'm not fancy pants.
Well, I'm not
but
giving you the deluxe. You can have.
Why not?
You got the 49. Come on.
I know.
What do you want, blood?
Well, I was disappointed because obviously the DX1 doesn't transmit its poly aftertouch, and that would have been lovely because that's a great thing. But I still need to twist some arms at Yamaha to get an M8X in here somehow. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of the things about not having it across the line is I still haven't decided how to get a M in here because I haven't had one since they gave the protos back, and I have no room for an 88. Absolutely have no room for an 88. And then the question is, do I drive it from my Osmos or my Deluxe and whatever to put the other one in there or not?
So
it's a tough call.
I'm also baffled because up until the Montage, so up until Motif, Yamaha was still knocking out rack mount versions of these instruments, and because the Montage and the MODX are actual proper synthesizers, not workstations, they would suit a 2 or 3U rack mount unit.
That's why they are coming out, I think, with the VST version.
There is that, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
So because rack, nobody uses the rack. Well, there are people that use the racks live, but if you look, there's a lot of people that are running Ableton Live, and they're running instances of synths in Ableton Live or main stage.
Very true. Yeah. That, and because the whole VST thing with Montage M is a very intriguing prospect, which obviously we've yet to fully encounter.
Well, because I would not take my Montage out to play. I mean, it's heavy, it's big, it's too expensive. I've got a cheap Phantom over here, and that this is my carry around, take and bash and don't care. But if I had a Montage and VST on a laptop, that's so much better.
One thing that's annoying is the whole argument of the flagship getting goodies and everything else losing. It's like DX7 Mark I had aftertouch for a reason. FM begs to be expressed.
Yep.
And if you take that out in any of the MODXs, it's not only insulting but silly. You're missing the experience.
Yeah.
So
There was actually a real-time faux pas on that at our SynthFest presentation because I had totally forgotten that. And I had the second or third voice that I was demoing, and I have this absolutely phenomenal thing going on with Aftertouch. I'm playing it. It's like, oh, damn.
You covered for it well.
I covered for it.
Yeah. You remember the DX11, DX9,
Yeah.
DX21? None of them had a touch.
Well, the 11 did.
Horrible.
The 11 did.
11 did. Oh,
Yeah. But the 9 and the 21 and the 27 and the 100, they're all devoid of it. In fact, the 27 and the 100 didn't even have velocity, I don't think.
The 100 didn't. No.
No.
That was that little mini one, right? With the
Yeah.
guitar strap pegs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Which is essentially a 27 inside. It's the same thing.
Steve on the chat had asked, Steve Elbow, is that right? If all synths have felt in the key beds, and it's pretty ubiquitous still. I mean, I've done I got a bunch of 80s synths back there that I've restored. They all have it, and they typically have two pieces of felt, and so the key bed, it's for the down and the up to soften both.
He's seasonal.
Name
Manny.
that track.
That's my mom.
Nah.
Flip her off.
Can you guys
OMD
talk
gets-
about the
gets a
ANX
copyright
engine
strike.
briefly? Because
Sure.
I know it's obviously better than the AN1X, but how much better is it?
Okay, well, obviously there's opinions. It's different. Let's start with that. It's different. A lot of people don't know the AN1X was really their take on doing the best virtual Prophet 5 that they could do with a couple extra bells and whistles. And a lot of the stuff that they were shooting for comes from that timbre space. I love my AN1X so much that I have two of a couple plugins.
I've got one as well. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is wonderful.
I have the synth and the groove box. It's so good.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So, how is ANX different? This is opinion. This is not based on anything I've been told, other than going through the process of developing the instrument. The amount of computer power and the knowledge gained in doing analog simulations since the AN1X was done is a massive amount of knowledge. As Kent well knows, the thing that makes true analog gear what it is the fact that it's so inconsistent and has so many distortions, crosstalks, and weird interactions that just don't happen in a typical digital synthesizer. So from what I heard in the response of programming it and developing the presets, they really spent a lot of time making the filters sound fantastic, making the oscillators, truly behave in an analog, way to the degree that they could. So the waveforms are all slightly distorted if you pull it up. The sawtooth's not a pure sawtooth. In the AN1X, they tried to get perfect waveforms for all that kind of stuff. In these, they wanted to have little quirks in things. And so when you just listen to just a filter sweep with or without resonance over the wide range of opening to close, I hate to use the word because I hate it, but the ANX engine is just so much more full, creamier, and spacious than the AN1X is. The AN1X is probably the best sounding virtual of that era, but that's not where we are today when we see what guys like GeForce can do in their VSTs. So it's a significant difference.
Other plugin formats are available.
Yeah, right. Yes, there's a lot. I mean, Diva has been phenomenal for years. Yuhi's stuff is great. I mean, there's so many places where guys have really nailed those.
Cap and audio units and.
Yeah. So there's but anyway, the point is that they really went to ground zero to say, let's use all our resources to make something that really does truly sound and behave analog. So I think
not to mention the fact that you have the ability to layer some sounds, and then you have a whole cache of really high quality DSP effects that you can use not just as you would an output effect, but actually use it as part of the sound design itself.
Right. To the question that just popped up, yes, they call it aging. I believe is the parameter that you can increase the inconsistencies and instabilities of it relative to tuning, filter response, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Aging is not too bad. It's better than slop.
Slop and fizz, right?
Slop and fizz.
Or crapitude.
Crapitude. Well, you know what's funny? They have an amount, right? And in it goes, 0, 50, 99. Hit the end. It says Kent Spong.
Yeah.
Time to send it to Kent.
Yeah. It says, can't find my screwdriver. This will do.
It's funny that we've restored these things back here like Ken does, and you spent hours because a lot of these things when you're calibrating it, you adjust this pot, and then you adjust that one, which throws this one out a little bit. So you go back and do, and it's kind of a iterative process to get
just like
ever
that.
closer to what you would consider perfection. But and then you get the digital emulation, and all I want is a knob to wreck the calibration.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Yeah,
But-
balancing those things out when you're calibrating, it's practically the same as sound design anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, to talk about something that's done very well in the newer engine, when you push the ring modulation or the hard sync and the FM, to its maximums, you'll find that the artifacts are minimal and or even not there, compared to what you could do in the older engines. So
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a urine splash level
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
But Manny, is there something you can do on the SY99 that you can't do in the new Montage M?
oh heck yeah,
yeah.
So they haven't really ported over most of the goodies.
well, look,
There will be no converter like
There-
the DX7 converter.
this is personal opinion, if I want to stress that. I think the reason that version of FM is in the Montage is specifically because they wanted something that had a vast library of stuff that could just get in right away, and everybody could use their now popular again vintage patches from. If they had gone through and redeveloped a whole brand new engine, that would be a much, much, much more difficult thing, because the original FS1R, you know this, Robbie, you can send MIDI SysX to an FS1R and it actually converts it on the fly. So that FMX engine that they have in the Montage is 100% DX7 compatible, and that's a big thing for the library of sounds. FM engines are weird. You can have one or two different implementations that give you sonic spaces that you aren't going to get in other ones that are really cool. And if you like them, then you miss them. But if you don't need them, you don't miss them. I mean, everybody knows, most people I think know how I feel about my SY99. And yeah, that's still my favorite Yamaha FM implementation. But doesn't discount what you can do on the Montage, because you can do some really fantastic stuff in the Montage that I can't do on my 99. So it's just different.
Does the FMX engine allow you to use samples as oscillators within the
No.
operators?
No.
No.
It doesn't use samples as modulators.
No.
Good.
So-
Because, and I hate
You think like a wavetable synth as a carrier or an operator for an FM synth, I
Yeah.
suppose.
So I mean, Howard touched on that. Some of us that have been around this long enough, it's like there's things that people ask for. They don't realize the consequences of if it's
that would
actually
be
useful.
awesome, they say. And
Yeah, that would be awesome. And there are certain situations where it's awesome, but what they think they're going to get out of it is not what it does at all.
Yeah.
The biggest disappointment, I guess, for me is that those engines don't interact in some way. Okay, just in some way, because that's what's kind of cool. I mean, I love my Iridium desktop, and the Quantum engine is great, but I think the shame is that those engines don't interact. Just because, hey, Howard knows this because we do the same thing. We go in, we find the guts, we try to break it and do all the stupid interconnections that nobody anticipated to see what wonderful things drop out, and then leverage that into sound design. So I'll give an example of that. Kawai K1, 8-bit grungy, no filters, ring modulator.
Yeah.
You can tune the samples sub-audio. Take some nice, noisy samples and ring modulate them with one or both of them in very weird tuning relationships where some of them are sub-audio, and you arguably have the first granular synthesis engine. And it sounds glorious with all the crunch.
Yeah, Alex Bow has some famous K1 stuff online. It's really good.
So anytime you have something in the design of the engine that lets you do that weird stuff, fun things pop out. here's a relevant example to the Montage M. Because it has polyphonic aftertouch, and there are certain things that are available in the mod matrix for the poly aftertouch, and there's certain things that are not. However, in the FMX engine, there are some destinations coming from the controller standpoint that at the part level are then individualized in the destination. So on some of the presets that I've done, even though you can't have an arpeggiator per note activated by aftertouch, you can fake it because you can actually have an FM modulation that is just a standard EG bias control, which is a polyphonic aftertouch destination, and then I can have a
out of existence. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there are some neat things you can do, like I say, outside of the intended design. And don't even get me started what happens when you use fixed frequency mode with the motion sequences, because that just drives the whole thing wanky. But some really cool stuff pops out when you do that.
Universal Vibe asked about overhead, and he triggered something in my head that I just realized we totally glossed over in the new montage is the higher fidelity AWM2 samples. For primarily in piano and so on. I don't remember if it's higher bit depth, but they're definitely higher fidelity samples, and they definitely sound it. He asked about sound engines and how much overhead's left over for peak scale, and I think some of that is left up to the user, because I mean they can only protect you against being doing stupid things so much. Right. You could in your path run things through multiple amplifiers and push things up into the point where you're going to get into digital clipping, assuming that's not what you want. And so in doing sound design, if you have 3 identical synced waveforms doing the same thing and you're running them all at maximum output, it's going to clip. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're doing the sound design.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you're doing pure FM sounds. Normally you have to be careful on your aliasing, unless you get into a situation where you are doing intentional aliasing at specific indexes and ratios that you actually are using the foldback for specific purposes. So you actually, I can call it tuned aliasing. It's
almost like playing your resonant filter as a tone.
Kind of, yeah, and it's really, really useful for drum and percussion sounds. Come on, you know that trick, Howard.
Of course I do.
But
a real quick comment on the weird modulation stuff that you guys were talking about. OP1 that's using FM radio as a modulator, which is really cool. So.
FM radio as an
internal FM radio. It can be a sound source. It could also be a modulator.
Yeah.
So I mean, imagine all the different frequencies, different cities, and different radio stations, and
there'll be an idea for a noise generator, just a different mode.
There was some handheld module or something like that was out not too long ago that actually had a radio in it. Was it? It wasn't a Teenage Engineering one, was it? There was something that had a radio, and you could use that as a sound source for the modulation.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
I hacked an FM radio to work with a modular system, but that's another matter. So.
Yeah, I remember the discussion was, well, what happens if you use that with copyrighted song playing on the radio, and now that's part of your song?
Yeah.
Good question. So, in the time that you've had your M so far, Scott, besides the impact of just the overall sound of it, what's drawing you to it to really enjoying the experience?
The controllers and the ANX engine. I want to go and just sit down and play it, but that I end up tweaking and play it. Playing instead of
getting work done.
Here, instead of doing what I want to be doing, I'm ended up in instead of this key part here, I'm up on this display here. I found, actually, let me put it on here. So I was playing with ANX sounds in here, and I was playing with the ring modulator and the FM, and I thought, oh, what a shame that I can't have both. And I thought, wait a second, I can move that over here, and there you see, you can actually do both. So if I want ring and FM, you can actually do that. You can't do it on the controller here, but there are. Once I realized that there's a way, this is a good snapshot into what can be done, but it's certainly not everything that it's capable of doing. Right. But it at first I just was playing with the 8 controllers and going through the different functionality. But once I realized that it's a snapshot into a much deeper engine, that's a huge rabbit hole that just sucks hours away.
Oh, it's so fun to play.
It is so much fun to play, and I end up I haven't written anything or recorded anything because I'm just playing and creating sounds, and it's again a time suck.
Can you build your own FM algorithm like the Op6 can?
No.
No. Okay.
But you can edit skirts and what's the other thing you can edit on there?
Is the skirts thing, is that like the FS1?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that to get some very analog-ish sounds out of that FM engine.
Yeah, the irony is I built an FM-based analog synth VA, in the original Montage, way before they actually started developing this.
I've done that as well.
And, have it so you have the one knob that goes from saw to square to a pulse, and the EG for the pulse width depth and blah, 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 blah. And, it's very interesting. But the biggest thing that it made the difference is, we have, 7 filter types or more in FMX to filter the sound, but none of those filters sound anything like the AN1X filters. They're just like a whole they're nice digital filters, but they're like not modeled analog, quirky, saturate-y, harmonic distorty-y filters in any way, shape, or form. It's just a whole different ballgame.
So they don't have vocal formats from the FS1R, but are there format-like samples on the sample bank that you can fake it with,
Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. I spend very little time in the sample engine. I know they have vowels and sounds like that, but what they do have, they do have a format insert effect that is useful. That you pick your bass A, O, U.
That's cool.
Format sound as your center, and then you can modulate it with various controllers.
I'm sure you could do it with one of the filters in the AN1X engine as well. You could get close to it.
But they don't have specifically the format behavior of the FS1R, no.
But you can't make it say shooby dooby, right?
How many filters can you do in parallel?
That's one thing that I really wished, because the filters are serial and they're stuck that way, and I was really surprised to see that you couldn't switch them to be parallel filters.
Yeah, that was. Yep.
So a couple of band passes, you've got performance.
Yeah.
So can't have everything.
No.
I get told that a lot. But anyway, it's like anything. It's like, leverage the tool that you have, and don't. It took me a long time to get over complaining about what I don't have.
Yeah.
Have you knocked the Eurorack thing on the head, Manny? Or are you still going down that rabbit hole?
Well, my Black Friday acquisitions are these two things here. It's the Nifty Keys case, and this is the
All the Behringer modules, yeah.
Behringer Cobalt. But I have a bunch over there. I have a bunch over there. I haven't bought any in a while. Does that count?
Yeah, it counts. Definitely.
But, I didn't go into Eurorack because of Eurorack. I went into Eurorack to satisfy my teenage midlife crisis of having a Tangerine Dream modular to do Berlin School electronica.
Talking Tangerine.
Ooh, Bitbox.
That's a sampler made by 1010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it
Very-
today. I'll be playing. I'll be spending a lot of time not working, but playing with that. I only got it because I want to make my own mellotron sounds.
Was that sitting on an SL88?
Yeah. No, 76.
Oh, 76.
Yeah.
It reminds me, I must fix my SL88.
Very good.
Oh, be gone.
Too funny.
Well, if you've got if you've got synthesizers and you've got space, you've got to have cats.
Yeah, I went for Huskies.
You went for
That was a
Huskies.
bad move.
Scott, you discovered a bug in the new montage, or what was it?
It was a misunderstanding.
Oh yeah.
That's what they
That's
call
right.
it.
That's what it was. I was looking in the wrong place. What was it? I was
Your Poly AT assignments because it's on
Poly.
a separate
That's
page.
right. I was trying to set up Aftertouch into an ANX patch, and let me see if I can actually remember where I was doing this.
I saw the video of that.
Yeah. So if you see the video, I did a follow-up video actually later the same day because I had it was Joel actually
Yeah.
said, "Hey, there's actually it's in a different place. It doesn't it's not intuitive because it just looks like, well, if you want to set up Polytouch, you use the Polytouch tab and then it's all disabled, and it's like, well, I can't figure out a way of doing it. I went through the manual, I couldn't find a reference to it. It's on page 392 apparently." But Joel says, no, it's actually you do it here separately and on the assignment. And I'm like, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
So it turns out that wasn't a limitation at all. I was, and when I found out, I'm like, I was really surprised. I'm like, I can't imagine they would do this, but maybe it's an architecture limitation. And I asked a couple other people I know, and they said, yeah, and they looked at theirs and they're like, yeah, I see it. I can't do it either. I'm like, okay, well, it must be a limitation in the architecture.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate UI choice.
Yeah.
The funny because the assignment, even though it's similar to behaving on how you do the assignments in the quote normal controller mod matrix, once you toggle that switch, it presents in a different manner. So yeah, it's it is confusing, but it is all there. And then once you go, oh, it's like, okay, now it's like, okay, yeah, there you go. So, which actually, there is one limitation relative to the way they implement Aftertouch on transmission, is that there's not many keyboards that do this, but the Hydra does, which is it transmits and can process mono and poly Aftertouch simultaneously in the engine. And unfortunately, in the M8X, you have to pick one or the other. So as much as you can have those routings in the sound itself be one or the other, the keyboard will only do one or the other. So you can drive it from something that transmits both, then it will respond to both.
Similarly, the UE plugins, they respond to poly and channel Aftertouch at the same, but not at the same time. If it recognizes poly Aftertouch, it forgets the channel Aftertouch.
Yeah. So it will respond to them, but you can't generate both from the keyboard. So that's the difference. The Hydra Synth generates and responds to both, and this one will respond to both, but only generate one or the other. So a little quirky in that regard.
Keep your Hydra nearby.
It's great for mixing both. You've got poly and channel Aftertouch at the same time on the same parameters.
No, well, not like that. Not on the same parameters, obviously, because that gets a little funky. But it actually is very.
Good.
It is,
You balance them out nicely.
I guess
Yeah.
you could route it into two different parts.
yeah. Well, actually, you can do that too, because you could also build different parts in that, because you have so many parts to layer up. But in general, there's keeping in mind that all the effects engines which can be modulated are obviously inherently monophonic. There's no need for polyphonic modulation of delay time, because that's not a per note effect. But there are some other behaviors that it's useful to have one way or the other, or as Howard said, a little bit of both.
I think what I was trying to do was see whether I could modulate filters on individual voices. That's what led me to that whole.
Well, it's just simple poly aftertouch. No.
Yeah, I assume that's the context you mean, Scott.
Yeah. With poly aftertouch.
Okay.
But anyway, if you Culture, Steve Powell wants to know if you only could keep the M7 or the Phantom, Scott, which would you choose? You already said you need both because you have to gig with the Phantom.
No. Actually, I have a Phantom O here and I have a Phantom down here. But there's a very simple answer to that. Look where the Montage is and look where the Phantom is. So there's your answer.
There you go.
The Phantom, I never intended to buy this, but there's a guy nearby who he plays in a very well-known cover group around here. He bought it. He wasn't using it. He went back to his Nord and he was selling it for a crazy price. And for what he was selling it for, I couldn't not buy it, so I did. And it has all the it obsoletes several of the synths I have over here because this has an SH101, Juno 106, JD800 all in it. And the engines in it are quite good, but the user interface obfuscates them so much that it's really a preset machine. It's painful to do sound design on. But even that said, I mean, it's a Roland machine that does all the Roland stuff, but I would keep the Montage for sure. The Phantom user interface to me feels cobbled together by different people who weren't talking to each other.
Yeah, there seems to be typical Roland from the time when I was working for them. In fact, they had a Leslie a rotary speaker emulation, and there was no way to use a modulator to change the speed in the prototype until I pointed it out to them. Sorry, in the V-Synth that was.
Right.
You know, stupid little things like that. I'm not a big Roland fan anymore, to be honest. I could get interested in the system. What's the one with the green lights at the top?
The System 8.
System 8.
So the System 8 is, I would keep that. It's simply because it sounds really good. The emulations of it are really, really good. However, the ACB engine that's inside the System 8 is now also in the Phantom with the new EX release that they did. So they've actually emulated the ACB, because before that it was Zencore, which were ABM engines, which were good but not perfect, whereas the ACB ones are perfect. They sound exactly like it. So maybe that, you know what, I find the System 8's covered with knobs, so it's easy to work with quick. Right. Whereas the Phantom, it's menu diving and touch screens. Oh, and Half God, Half Beast says he uses the System 8 VSD quite a lot, and that's a good point. The System 8 native engine is excellent. I really like the sound of it. I mean, it sounds like a Roland synth, of course, but it's a good synth with for what it is. It's capable. There's no mod matrix, and all the routings, or a lot of the routings, are hardwired. So you're limited in what you can do with it, but it does sound good for what you have.
And if I remember rightly, the Roland software is all, and you have to pay yearly subscription.
With the Rolling Clad, the System 8 is not. Once you put it on there, it's there forever.
The software.
Oh, the software, yeah, you have to have Rolling Clad for that, for the VST.
Coolio.
Would you like me to sing each time there's some
to talk about FM?
quiet
FM?
Oh yeah, the worst FM. The worst FM I've tried. My least favorite synthesizer is my Prophet 12. Because the oscillators are very, very digital, and the FM is not very interesting.
Least favourite synthesizer. God, how long have you got?
Yeah.
Well, to play or repair, that's two different things.
Oh,
yeah.
Just to
Mine-
play.
Or to look at.
To play, I would have to say the EMS Polysynthy.
Yes. You know, I was the demonstrator for that back in the day.
You poor sod.
That, don't
At the very first when it was. When it was
Have you
on
ever heard
sale.
one?
And
Yes,
I
I
got
have.
paid my 30 quid, and I hated it.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
You actually had one. Ed?
no, I had one here. I had Benji's here for a while. I was
Benji's,
trying to get it right for him because he bought it because he goes, oh look, it looks like a box of bleeding licorice all sorts. Great. He said, no, this would be great because nobody else has got one of these. And I'm going, yeah, there's probably a reason for that.
A good reason why.
Yeah, and I did get it. I got it all going, and I had to go right through it, and I had to keep using it and playing it, and you know the way the knobs work backwards, and it's like, oh god, this thing is awful. and when he says, he goes, is it all working now? And I'm going,
Of course,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It was designed by Graham. Do you know Graham Hinton?
Yes.
Yeah, he designed it, and they kept knobbling his ideas. And
Yeah.
they had to keep cutting it down to keep the price down. And in the end, that's what came out.
Yeah. It was like, oh god. So,
Benj did a demo of his, and it didn't sound that bad.
do you know what? I think for me, because it had EMS printed on the front panel, it was like, hang on a minute, you know, it's like Rolls Royce bringing out a go kart, isn't it? Really? So.
Wasn't it aimed at educational market? Wasn't it?
No, it just looks like it should have been.
Just looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the Synthi E. That was the educational one. The yellow-faced, simple.
Mm.
It looks like a Synthi A, but with a yellow fascia.
Oh.
That was the educational one they did.
Yeah.
Ken, do you have the moment of apprehension when you open a synth? Because I know, all I know is, okay, the synth isn't working. And you open it up, and you're hoping for the simplest possible, connectors off. But you know you may end up and find a mouse has got in and chewed through a...
Yeah.
You know,
But I've opened up, like, for instance, it was a Jupiter 4. And you undo the 4 screws and you lift the lid. And I think I used a photograph of it for one of the pubs. You got the mains cable coming in, and it's literally just, the wires are just twisted together and sitting on top of the transformer. And he goes, it's not working. It makes a funny smell, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you go, well, that's probably why. I'm not quite sure why anybody would have done that.
Spark
but-
generator. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's the worst, is when you get one that you open up and someone's already had a go at it. And you're like, what were they thinking?
Yeah, I've had a memory mode chips put in there, back in the sockets, back the fronts, wrong connectors on the wrong plugs, and
Or they have no diagnostic skills, so they just add new stuff to replace the stuff that's already there that's not right.
Or just poke with a stick, and they do this thing when it gets sort of like, well, what happens if you pull that off? Oh, okay, and then forget about it. And go, well, what happens when you do this, and what happens when you do that? And it doesn't appear to be working anymore.
I see the pictures
And-
of you with the open CS80s, and I just shake my head. I'm like, no, never
You
going
don't
there.
do CS80 Scott?
I don't do CS80s.
No, there's the thing about the CS80 is it's quite linear in its design, so it's really easy to follow once you know what the path is.
Yeah.
And because the first time you work on one, it's like, you know, going down into the dark woods, and you hear the strange noises, and you don't know what's going on, and it feels quite scary. But once you know the path, it's fine. But and it also helps if you've got a huge bloody box of spare parts as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So, which we haven't got anymore.
Have you been watching those videos by Jim Alfredson? he's an organ player, and he does repairs in the States. It's fascinating stuff, and he always seems to find the parts. He must have a whole warehouse full of bits.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
The trick is to repair Juno 106s because there's a million of them, and people make spare chips for them and all the parts you can get.
Yeah. Yeah, but they very rarely turn up like that. That's the thing. So I've had one.
Like Yamaha key coders, right?
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So go. Oh yeah, it's going to need a new YM 26600 key assigner. Oh, is it? Okay. Bye.
Something show for parts.
That's a job for an Arduino, I think.
Yeah.
Something show for parts and reverb. They're still quite expensive. I'm like, it's for parts. You know?
Yeah, but Rarity will lend to that.
No, I know.
So if you want if you want a IG 00153 VCO for a CS80, hell. But if you go,
don't you go buy a CS01 for that?
You could buy a nice car for that. But the thing is, what makes me laugh is sometimes you will see these VCOs for sale, but because it came out of something like, I don't know, a CS30, it's cheaper. It's like the same chip. It's like, but yes, I'll have it anyway. Thank you.
Now, there's a synth that would have been really cool if it was the AN1X engine, CS30.
Yeah.
Fantastic little Yamaha.
Yeah.
Remind me what that is. CS30.
It's the CS30. It's one of their series, but the so cool about it is that it's got a bunch of switches for everything, and all the routings are destination switches.
Yeah.
And the one with it comes in the regular version and the L. Oddly enough, the it's got a sequencer in it. Does ring mod. You can
yeah, we've got one in the office.
Yeah. It's a great little synth, and it sounds aggressively non-Yamaha.
Weird routing, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But you can invert the envelopes, and it's Yamaha's always quirky. It is the quirkiest, but it's really cool.
Yeah, one Yamaha I couldn't really handle was the A3000 sampler. That was
Yeah.
I will see. I have heard. I guess I probably get exposed to it more because I get people writing questions on my YouTube channel. It's actually a problem I had with my MODX, that whatever the pot is they use for the pitch bend gets dirty, and then it just starts sending random pitch bend commands. If you have, I noticed it because I had it hooked up to my DAW, and I saw all this traffic coming in while I was sitting idle. I'm like, what is going on? And so I opened a mini monitor, and I saw it was all pitch bend, and I'd whack it, and it would stop, and it would start doing it again, and then it started playing out of tune. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But I've seen a lot of comments from people that have the same problem where they say, my MODX is out of tune. I can't get it to stay in tune, and it's that pitch bend pot, and it just gets dirty and needs to be cleaned. So it must be something different than what they're using in the Montage, because I have not seen a single report of it happening on a Montage.
Yeah, I've never had any weird hardware stuff with mine. Speaking of that, actually, change with the Montage M's. You have the 5-segment mode for the ribbon. Yep. You can have a continuous 3 or 5 segments, which is kind of neat for doing certain types of modulations where you can have zones now on the ribbon. So that's actually kind of cool. And the fact they got the light LED feedback on it is actually very useful.
Multi-touch ribbon.
Yeah.
Multi-touch ribbon.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate you have 5 zones in, 2.5 inches, but
there is that.
There is that, but
they should have added a strum capability with that, like an omnichord.
And the default when you turn it on with the CFX is it activates the pan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, strum short ribbon would be great.
I gotta think about that.
There's definitely room though for a 2-foot ribbon on that though. Isn't there?
There's some back door to that.
I love that ribbon on the Hydrosynth for that reason, because it's great for, I mean, yes, you can use it for what it's, but I use it a lot for end of phrase, zwoop, just quick.
I've got a new technique I'm working on for getting the kind of sound like, Eberhard Weber. German bass playing plays some wonderfully out of tune sometimes in the same melodies as the soprano sax or whatever. And if you use the theremin mode, and then play the same note at the same time, you get a really wonderful spacey sound.
I think the innovative thing that Glenn did I know, and I know it was Glenn because I actually asked him about this, was
Glenn
to
Darcy.
have Glenn Darcy, yeah, was to have the ribbon on the Hydrasynth line up with the keys below it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite features. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Exactly that, yeah. And if you,
I only reason why I snorted is that then when they made the deluxe, because they
Yeah.
went C to C,
Uh-huh.
it now lines up with nothing in your rack. You can't have your keys lined up. It's either an octave too high or an octave too low. It's so annoying.
It's an imperfect world.
Yes, it is. But like I say,
it's a bit like the on Martino, where you've got the continuous pitch and the quantized pitch at the same time.
That's why I have a Kurzweil expression mate. I can put a ribbon on anything. So, really cool.
Yeah. Oh, God, I wish they'd brought that back.
It's hard to find, but I got one.
Yeah, I know.
What have you got, Andy?
Kurzweil expression mate. It's a little box
that,
ribbon.
Yeah.
It's actually the same ribbon they put on the montages.
you mean the
no, sorry.
2600?
The Super Gemini. Super Gemini has the same exact ribbon that Kurzweil used.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I recognize that shape anywhere. So it's good stuff.
Because it was suggested to me to manufacture the CS81 again, because I've still got about 500 new springs.
Oh,
But I mean, poor old 3D printer would be doing overtime, doing the casing for it. But
Ken, I got to ask you about your PCB router setup. Did you actually grind off the PCB traces with that as well?
that's the old one. The new one I've got coming is it's the same kind of thing, where it's done as isolation
Right.
CNC.
And then it could do the screw holes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Beautiful piece of machinery.
yeah.
Sorry,
But
that was getting a little technical beyond this, but
No, I particularly love this one because it has a tool changer.
oh wow.
And all the self leveling's all automatic now. There's none of this mucking around, and it also comes with the unit. It has a CNC lathe as well, so I can even make my own potentiometer knobs and all sorts of stuff with this thing. It's ridiculous. So that's I think it's due February. This new one. So. And all hell's going to be breaking loose.
I have to thank Manny for being on. He has another commitment, so
Yes, I have to wrap up. I'm afraid. So, any last specific voicing questions?
You can't go. You're the brains of the organisation here.
He's the only guy who really understands FM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go. The montage is just like, I don't know. It's another keyboard, mate. I don't know.
I'll leave you with this. I love my SV99.
Manny, are you going to Super Booth or NAM?
I will be at NAMM, and I am planning to be at Super Booth.
See you both places.
I will.
man.
Oh, cool! You'll be out. Very good. Looking forward to that. Yeah, hopefully Rob will have a good contingency from Pro Synth there as well. And
Not at NAM, but at Super Booth we'll be there.
there you go.
See you there, Robbie.
Yep, look
Very
forward to
cool.
it. We will hang for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Again, cheers, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. And
Thanks, Manny.
have a good day, everybody. If you
Be in
if you
touch
pub
soon, mate.
tomorrow, I'll try to see you tomorrow, Ken.
Good man.
Cheers.
Thanks, Maddie.
Bye.
Bring your textbooks.
Textbooks. Which ones? I have a couple of them. You want the ones with all the sharp instruments in it?
You're going to need all of them. All of them.
All of them. Okay. Cheers.
All right, mate. Take care.
So there went the guy who prevented the breaks, the silences. So now I think I will sing each time there's silence. So no,
What are you going to sing?
Silence is a very powerful.
Santa
Silence
Claus
is golden.
coming to town.
It's got to be Christmas carols.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here in Danish. That's good.
Look, why
Just
don't
so
we
it
have
upsets
jingle
Robbie.
bells- Jingle bells
Jingle bells in Danish.
in
Yeah.
FM. In FM.
Yeah.
Because I did notice the DX7 bell at the end of the intro.
I did too. Tubular bells.
Yeah.
I told him to add that, by the way. So
Yeah, have you ever seen this Yamaha guy? He's French. He does because I was looking for certain things on the montage, and it come up in Google, and had this guy, and he I presume he works for Yamaha. I think that's what he said. But you can't understand a single word he's saying.
Yep.
They speaking in English, but it was
Yep.
a waste of time.
And his name is.
Yeah.
Oh, it begins with a J, I think. Oh, yeah, I know the one you mean. I know the guy you mean because he's
It was
always
hilarious. It was
He's
hilarious.
always on
It was brilliant.
when Blake does his live synth talk things on the Yamaha channel. He'll have Harpe, he'll have the Italian guy, and then the French guy as well. So
Yeah.
basically Yamaha Europe. And yeah, he's great and he's really interesting, but you really have to focus on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hey, his English is way better than my French, so.
Well, the thing is, if he was speaking French, I might have understood more of what he was saying.
Just put the translator.
And I can't speak French. But when he was speaking English, it was like, what? So I had to watch what it was he was doing with the screen. And he's doing it very, very quickly as well. But I kept laughing all the time, some of the pronunciations and stuff like that. And I had to go back and watch it again.
It's tough to do because I know when I'll do a video describing how to do something, and I'll watch it later, and I am whipping through it. I'm like, oh, if I was a beginner, there's no way I'd be able to follow this. Just because you get to know the synth so well, and you're too fast at it.
Yeah. Yeah, this
The
is why they
person-
don't have experts write manuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they miss all the bits that us dullards would go. Yeah, but how did he get to that point?
Great manuals for dullards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joel Borg.
Ah, okay.
That's him. Yeah.
Joel.
Oh, Joel. Yeah, Joel's the one who contacted me. He does the Mosseur's site. But he's the one that contacted me and said, "Hey, your video, there is a way to do that." So he's the one that contacted me.
Yeah.
No, it's quite an entertaining video. There's no two ways about it.
that's why Loop Pop is so good because he's fast, but he's very clear.
True. Yeah.
So
Actually,
also-
he's the other one that contacted me about that video. Ziv, who's Loop Pop. So those
Yeah.
two guys were. So Ziv apparently has a montage M, and he's working on learning it and doing a video right now.
oh, that'd be great.
So there will be one coming out shortly.
Silence is golden, Henrik.
Start singing.
Come on,
Yeah, I
jingle
was
bells,
just about
mate.
to sing på loftet sidder nissen med sin julegrød, sin julegrød, sin julegrød, and so on.
Now sing a Krampus song.
What?
Krampus.
Krampus knocked.
Wrong place. That's Holland, isn't it? Krampus.
They don't do Krampus there? I thought it was most of that part of Europe.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We're all heathens out here now.
This is Netherlands and Belgium.
And it's big in Germany, so.
Krampus?
Yeah, Krampus knocked.
Krampusnacht sounds like something I had when I had that dodgy spam.
Well, that's when he goes out and kidnaps all the bad children. So.
Oh.
Not a German.
Oh, light-hearted then. Ooh.
Nu er det jul igen, og nu er det jul igen, og julen var lige til påske.
Oh, that's a
Nu er det
good
jul igen,
one.
og nu-
Yule. Yeah, Yule.
I'm
Yuletide.
wondering how many people that are watching have a montage or a MODX. or are they just watching and trying to find out?
Well, how many of us do? There's only two of you guys who've got one. Is that right?
I think so.
One now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I got.
oh,
I got one,
Scott.
I was this
Yeah.
close to MODX, but no AT killed it for me. So
and it's still working. At least
Right,
this one come out of the box tuned,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unlike that bloody Behringer.
I had a MODX 7 Plus here for about 6 months. It was okay. I was disappointed, shall we say, because it lacked those things that I expect from an FM synthesizer, such as aftertouch, and I got to appreciate it a little more after, speaking with Manny and found some nice things. But when I had to give it back, I wasn't disappointed. I don't miss it, but
When
I
I
did
yeah.
lust after one of those.
When I moved back to England for a short time in, I can't remember when it was, 2001 or something, I sold my SY77 and my DX72. It wasn't FD, it was just the standard one. And the one I missed was the DX72, not the SY77.
Okay.
I had a MODX 7, but I swapped it with a friend of mine for the JD800 down there, which I think I got the better end of that deal.
Yeah.
What's that one?
oh yeah.
JD800.
Oh, JD.
So no red glue, right?
Somebody asked, what was I just saw it pop up there? The reason you have multi workstations because some are live and others studio. You have options with each. Not really. The Montage is just my everything. I use it for everything. Like I mentioned before, the Phantom is unplanned. It's like the unplanned extra child that I had no intention of buying. The Phantom I got because the live work I was doing, the sounds that are in it, and plus the sounds that the other keyboardists were using were on his Phantom, so I was able to move things across easily. And so then I thought, okay, well, I better learn it. So I've done a little bit of work with it, but it's strictly because it's lightweight and it has those sounds in it. That's my live board, but everything else just lives in the studio.
Did you add Enzyme to the Phantom?
To this Phantom, yes, just
Yeah.
because I wanted to see it, and it comes with when you get the what do they call it? EX? Is that what they call it? The new EX expansion?
Think
It's
so.
it's part of that. So you get the EX, you get the GD800, a ACB Juno 106, and an ACB SH101. So it does have Enzyme in it. I've installed it, but I have not looked at it, so I don't know. It's a wavetable synth. So I've played some of the patches. I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, but I haven't delved into it.
Somebody in the chat room asked about the virus KB. To be honest, I haven't turned on my viruses for the last 4 or 5 years, so can't remember what they sound like. Although I was such a fan at the time.
I use the TI a lot. I love the TI virus.
Yeah, I've got a TI and a C still. And I think the C was kind of the pinnacle of the development, and the TI was a bit over the top with the the total integration.
Well, they put too much in a CPU that couldn't necessarily handle everything.
Yeah,
Right. The other problem with it is that if you were working in a studio with a DAW, it's tied, especially if you are using the virus software that works in real time, is basically abandonware, and it doesn't work with at least on Windows with more modern operating systems, and it never will be updated. Well, the synth itself it'll never be updated.
Yeah. I use the TI component maybe 2 or 3 times ever. I mostly use it standalone. So. Kitty.
yeah. I used to work on the TI on the machine, not in the on the plugin. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Although I remember seeing it where somebody had managed to extract all the samples out of the virus and then built an open source engine to emulate it.
There is
Yes.
an emulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Sample-based emulator.
It wasn't it had samples in it, but it so they've taken all the content out of it. But
Yeah.
so was it the wave tables or whatever the data was in it, and used that to
I
emulate
think
the engine.
Rob Parpin tried to kind of emulate the virus at one point, if I remember rightly. One
was
of
that
his,
was that Predator or something like that?
can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was called DSP 56300 emulation. That virus. It was a virus C emulation, all done in open source.
Okay. Still available?
I was just actually looking. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's got its own website, which is dsp56300.wordpress.com.
But not for Mac.
Yeah, because I've got it on my Mac.
Oh, all right then.
It's a VSTI. I'll put the link in the private
please.
chat. Yeah. Here we go. In the private
That can run the virus C ROM. It says there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've actually played with it. It's I have an old machine, so it's heavy on my machine, but it works and it sounds great. But you need a machine that is not 10 years old. Or 13.
My cat is not allowed down here, but she is desperate to come down here. Yeah, she waits and sees every time I come in here. She like waits by the door to hope I'm not paying attention.
Yeah, the virus wave tables one. So I didn't think they were particularly interesting, to be honest.
Wave tables generally aren't without the engine that surrounds them.
Yeah.
Well, it's like pulling samples out of a sampler, and then you lose all that cool mojo that's in the actual sample hardware. So,
My
as
very
Robbie
first
can attest to.
my very first synthesizer was an Ensoniq Mirage. Actually, that's not true. I bought it and the Poly 6 at the same time. I actually brought the Poly 6 home first because I had to bring it home on the bus and I could only carry one. So technically, the Poly 6 was first. But the Mirage sampler, half of its sound was, well, analog filter, but the crunch of
Oh, it's
8
great.
bits and
I still have my Mirage. It's great. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good.
I wish I had a couple of ASR 10s. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
Wonderful samplers.
Yeah, I still got my special Mirage, I think.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
still
that's
here.
cool.
Still
The
here.
DSK?
Well, it's not. It's the DSK livery, but it's on the original Mark 1 metal case.
Interesting.
Weirdly, instead of the more compact polystyrene, high density polystyrene case. So I didn't know it existed. I thought it was quite interesting. That's why I got it.
Yeah, the first sample I ever heard in person was a Mirage. I was blown away. I was like, "What? You can do this on a keyboard?"
Yeah, well, it's,
High school.
It's that old story I used to tell about when I went to get the Mirage because I had to buy it HP because it was $16.99, and there was a bunch of people around it, and I was going to end up buying the one that was on the shelf because it was the first one in the shop, and I had my 400 quid deposit in my hand, sweaty hand for it. And I walked past a second-hand VCS3 for £400. And then I walked past the complete System 100 for 400 quid to get my now worth 12p Mirage.
Yeah, I sold my Synthi. I had two Synthias
Yeah.
and sold them both for about 400 quid.
Yeah, with
So-
Doctor Who when you need him.
I sold my Poly 6 for $100.
Oi! Mind you, I bought mine brand new. It's $14.99.
I passed up on a CS60 for 150 Deutschmarks.
Well, I was amazed at the Mirage. I had the Mesos discs as well, but it came with a piano sample built in, and I thought, I'll never need to use I have a piano, and I thought it just sounded like the greatest piano ever, and you could have strings. You know, you're oblivious to the fact that it sounded like absolute crap, but it was a piano and a keyboard, so it was amazing.
Yeah, but this is it. It was all about comparison, because you're coming from, I was coming from Poly 6. You try to do a piano sound on that, and then when you get to the Mirage, you go, oh no, this is a piano sound. Yeah, this is a piano. Oh, nothing will ever sound better than this. Yeah, and then it was like on the M1. You go, oh my God, this is a piano sound.
Was that before the Kurzweil? The big one that had the piano in it?
K250?
Yeah, I came into Kurzweil at 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a K1000, I think it was called. The one with the chopped off corner.
Mm.
Yeah. I got one of those recently for like $200.
Oh, they're not bad. Not
Yeah,
bad.
they're good. Yeah,
Mine was second-hand. It was $1,000.
they used to be almost $3,000.
It don't pay to get stuff early, does it?
No.
Really don't.
It's funny.
It's like when I bought my CS80 for, what was it, 299 quid?
I don't want to hear that.
It wasn't working, but that's how I learned how CS80s worked.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it was a bucket of bolts. So it was a good investment in the long run, but I sold it for 175 when it was
Oh,
working.
Tragic.
I'd never be a good salesman. Couldn't do it.
I got a WSA1 for $50 because no one knew how to use it. I thought it was broken.
That's always handy.
Oh, it's great. Because they are hard to use.
Mm.
If you ever used a Technics WSA1, they're really kind of weird.
That's the physical modeling thing, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the other ones out there, but it's pretty cool in its own way. And the control surface is nuts with the balls, and it's got the wheels, the balls, and a pretty decent keypad and a nice big screen.
Down, Robbie.
Talking of balls, look out.
Hey.
Wow.
And
Thomas
for those
Music,
of you
the
watching
Barat-
in black and white.
Thomas, the Barrage definitely did not have time stretch. It was literally just it was basically a Commodore 64 inside,
Yeah,
8-bit computer.
Yeah.
It was built by the guys that designed the Commodore 64 and the SID chip.
chip guys, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do time stretch, you dropped it an octave.
Yeah, so it basically just literally a digital tape recorder that sped up and slowed down.
Literally, yeah.
I've got one of those Mellotron, digital Mellotrons, which you can, of course, speed up and slow down very smoothly.
It's nice.
Mm.
Is it the mini one? The one that's like that big?
Yeah, the tiny little one, yeah.
Yeah. Those are cool.
And I'm thinking of sampling them into the 1010 Tangerine. It's smaller, you know.
Yeah, Scott, how good did you get at hexadecimal?
Oh, I was a computer
was on it.
programmer already, so I knew hexadecimal inside out.
I knew Z80 assembler.
Yeah. Well, no, 6502
Yeah.
is what I knew.
I don't know why. I can't remember my name most days, but I can remember all the hex numbers for all the different functions on the Mirage.
Yeah, in the Mirage B2. Yep.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, isn't it?
Did it originally come with a
82
cheat sheet?
for the MIDI channel?
I don't think so.
It
Mine
didn't,
just came
right?
with the big red manual.
Okay.
Yeah. And that card. That hard card. That it
Oh,
had,
yeah.
That you could, quick
You
guide.
guys started off with the Commodore, yeah?
Sorry?
You guys started off with the Commodore C64.
Commodore VIC-20 before that even.
Oh, Vic
Actually, no,
20.
before that I had a Clive Sinclair's, what is it, the
ZX
ZX81.
Spectrum.
Oh,
81.
the ZX81, yes.
Yeah, I had one of those as well. Went straight from that to the Atari.
Hmm. I think my favourite one was the Atari ST.
Yeah, I had a
In the end, I loved her.
528 ST was the first one, wasn't it? I had one of those. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I got Cubase 1.09, the crack, like everybody else
Well,
did.
it worked better.
But before that, there was a sequencer called... I can't remember the name. No, sorry, forgot. No.
Is that the one with the grid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Hollis was the programmer, and it had a companion program called MIDI Man.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
program
That
MIDI,
rings a bell.
MIDI strings and stuff.
Yeah. Good God, those were the days, weren't they?
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with there's a weird sequencer that Jan Hammer supposedly used sometimes on Miami Vice scores that was on the Atari, and it was some weird kind of, not random generator sequencer, but it was some kind of weird experimental thing to get funky sequences out of it. You guys familiar with that at all? I don't know the name of it.
Gonna look it up.
Yeah, look it up, because it sounded kind of interesting, because he has some pretty weird sequences in some of the shows. And that's must be what he used.
I know there was the odd program turning up that did sort of like call it sort of like early motion sequencing software.
I remember what. Sorry to butt in.
No.
Trackman by John Hollis.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry for butting in, Ken.
No.
Carry-
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I was just trying to. There was another piece of software that just popped back into my head. I haven't thought about for like 30 odd 40 years. Oh God. What was it?
Dr. T software started on the Atari, didn't it? The Dr. T stuff.
I thought that was Mac, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it was eventually on the Mac, but is it on the 64 or the Atari? I forgot.
There was I seem to remember there was a massively early version of Cakewalk on
Yes.
the ST.
There was.
Yeah. That was like a grid as well, wasn't it?
Well, the early Steinberg ones were grids, were they not? 24 was the one of them.
I think there were actually, yeah.
I think my first sequencer was Electro Sound on the Commodore 64. So it was internal only, so you could only sequence the SID chip, and it had this big 3x16 grid across the screen, and you just then page.
Or put the note events in.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's like say, go, oh, the kids today, they don't know they're born.
Yeah. There's also a construction set on the Apple II where you program with a joystick. So.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, it literally was a point of like, go enter MIDI note, and it would come up processing. Please wait.
It's really interesting to see how we have all this ridiculous equipment that can do anything in 1,000 different ways, and it's effortless to produce things that are ready to be burned to vinyl or written to vinyl.
Yeah.
But I mean, I made do with a 4-track cassette recorder, and my first sequencer was the RX-11 drum machine, which I'd MIDI into the Mirage, and then I just put the samples on the appropriate keys of the sounds that I wanted it to play, and that was sequencing. You just make do with what you have.
Yeah. God, dear. Even to do my first 4-track, I actually hired a 4-tracker, little Tascam 244. Funnily enough, I hired it from Tiny at Hammond Hire. And then when I started working with him, I said, "Can I have my money back?" Because it was like 45 quid a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the one that has the pitch wheel on it? Little pitch adjuster for speed?
Yeah, I think there was some
Yeah.
sort of little pitch
Right.
adjuster on it. Yeah. Yeah.
And you do the bass first because you know that the first tracks are going to fade into a pit of hiss with no top end.
Well, it wasn't so bad on the 244 because it was using that Dolby C. It was those bloody machines that brought out with that fucking DBX.
Yeah.
DBX, the compressing.
Man, you play it back. You know the first time and you're expecting, right, this is going to be brilliant, and what you got was thump, thump, thump. Just like, oh, what the hell's this? Have I done something wrong? This can't be right.
That's by design. Yeah.
I was talking to Martin Ware about this, and he was saying the early Human League stuff sounds the way it does because they were limited in what they could do because they only had a few tracks to work with, and stuff would bounce and it would disappear into hiss. So that's why it sounds so raw, is because it wasn't produced. It was just limited by what they had.
Well, I'm going to have to bow out, chaps, so it's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going to have to as well.
Thank you very much.
Nice,
Dear me.
nice having you. Hope to see you another time.
Indeed.
And
I'll see you in a few months,
and
Howie.
we continue.
And,
Yep. See that.
I'll see you tomorrow. Ken, and
Yeah,
probably see the
bring
other
your textbooks.
Scott, nice
Right.
to see you.
Oh yeah.
Nice pleasure.
Yeah,
Pleasure
I'll-
talking to all of you.
Alright.
Take good care.
I'll,
Bye-bye.
I'll leave as well because I want to watch the final few games in this snooker shootout.
Yeah.
Bye, bye.
Okay.
All right.
See you next time then.
Thanks, Alice.
And
Take care.
who will
Bye.
stay?
Thanks
Bye
everybody.
bye. How do I get out of here?
You
Throw me out, Stephen, Henry.
Yeah, you're trapped in
you
the.
just press
Yeah.
leave the studio at the bottom.
Leave the
Or
studio.
Throw the
Marcel,
laptop at the
Marcel.
wall. That normally works.
Chuck me
Keep
out.
hitting it. Keep hitting it.
Okay. Can I kick you? I don't know. I've never kicked anyone. No, I can't do that.
You can't
You
throw me out.
can. You can. Yeah, you can
But-
kick him.
But I don't know if you can.
I've
come
got
in
it. I've
next
got it.
time,
I've got to leave studio. Bye bye. See you on.
Take care, Howie. Look after, mate.
I see you again.
Yeah. So that's us. If anyone one else wants to join, then the link is in the top.
You got to sing and make Santa go by again.
Yeah.
Oh,
You need the little red hat
do we
now.
want to see
Yeah.
that again?
Yeah, sing it and make Santa go by. That's good.
Oh no, I don't want to.
Oh.
Right now the viewer count is 32, now 31. Because you threatened that I would sing.
No, it went up
No,
because
we're
you
not
were singing.
singing.
Yeah, it went up because you were singing. I saw the numbers go. Shh.
Yeah, but flying.
Yeah, I didn't see that. So if anyone else wants to join, then come in. We'll be here for about half an hour more, and then I guess I'm not sure. One of you will make a pop afterwards.
I'm gonna get water real quick. I'll be right back.
All right, bud.
Okay.
Right, now here's your opportunity to sing. Sing, Henrik. Sing.
No.
Oh.
So, how are you doing?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
ticking over.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually managed to spend a day in the studio today. Starting to get to know some of this stuff.
Besides the repairing stuff, do you do music?
Now that I'm not really repairing stuff, I will now have time to do music. So I'm really looking forward to that, to be honest.
Yeah, I look forward to hear it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what I can come up with. It's been a while, a bit rusty. Actually, very rusty, in fact.
Got to start doing some hardware jams.
Yeah. Yeah, absolute.
Culture of Ghost writes that you want to do a Saturday pop too.
We could do. I'm not going anywhere. I don't fancy going down and watching some god awful series that Fiona's watching at the moment.
Yeah, because I have to leave soon too. I promised the wife it was 2 hours. So,
I think Fiona prefers it if I stay up here anyway, so it's good. Because I just sit down there and just, I'm like, why are we watching this? This is horrible. Why are we watching this? I like this. Yeah, can we watch
That's
something
the
else?
best way to get your free time is complain about what they're watching. They say, "Get out."
Yeah, I've been watching this. Leave immediately.
Exactly.
I go, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, absolute.
okay, then I will leave. So if you start a stream,
Yeah, I can set one up.
yeah, okay. So if you want to continue with Kent and Andy, go to Kent's YouTube channel, and he will open a pop for you. So I will thank you all for being here today. Both
Thank you,
my
Henry.
guests
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to do these shows. I love it.
Good.
Um,
Good.
And I don't even have to say much. I just leave that.
Sing. Got to sing now. From now on,
Yeah,
you have to
but
sing in
now
there.
you have to sing.
that's the
Yeah.
problem, yeah.
You have to do like an opening, sort of like
Yeah.
titles song, and
Yeah.
and a leaving one as well.
I know a Danish song called "Jeg kan en sang, der kan drive dig til vanvid." That sentence is repeated over and over again and again and again. I could sing that next time. It means I can do a song which can drive you crazy.
Brilliant. It's the kind of songs we like.
Yeah. I can do that next time.
It's a job for the looper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
But thank you very much for being here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And
Yeah, that's good.
if I'm not doing a show before Christmas, then have a great Christmas. I will do something between Christmas and the New Year.
Yeah.
So
Good.
something will happen there. I need one thing before we end. I need to do this one, and then it will take a little minute. So, but that's okay. There's a guy writing a lot of suggestions for songs I can sing in Danish. A guy called Mikkel. Hi, Mikkel. I don't know you, but maybe I do. I don't know. But hi. Now it should happen in the background. We want to see him. Can you call for Santa? It's like a child show. Come on.
Oh, there he is.
Hey.
I should have my sleigh bells out. I don't have my sleigh bells.
Yeah. We use those. Okay, but thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, good
See you
stuff.
next time. And to all the chatters, good night and sleep well if you want to sleep.
Mm.